Hey, and welcome back to the Game Engine series. In the last episode, we implemented the window class and also key querying, so we could ask if a specific key was pressed. And today we are going to expand on that by implementing event processing and the respective GLFW callbacks. We will separate today's episode in two parts. The first part will be about developing a diagram how GLFW's event processing generally works. And the second part will be about implementing the GLFW callbacks and then also test and see how the program behaves when we trigger an event like pressing a key or clicking a mouse button. So I'm going to put myself in the bottom right corner. And then we're going to start with the diagram. We are going to use LibreOffice's Draw program for that. That's pretty good. And we have a small legend here. In dark blue, we have GLFW components. In light blue, we have Game Engine components. In a pinkish red, we have the user. And in a more or less like transparent gray, we have a step, which means that is a step within our diagram, like first step, second step, third step, and so on. So let's start with the game engine. And I already have this drawn out here on the second screen. I'm just going to copy the components in. So we have the game engine's main loop, and then we have the key callbacks, which we still have to define, and they're going to be here. And the last part for the game engine is GLFW poll events, which we already implemented. So I'm going to place that over here. So the next part are the GLFW components. I'm going to copy them over here. On one side, we have the event queue, and on the other side, we have the GLFW callbacks. And the last bit we have to copy are the user parts, and that would be mouse and keyboard. So now without any kind of relationship, those are just the components that are involved in user input processing with GLFW. And what we have to do now is draw a couple of arrows to implement exactly those relationships and to see how these components work together to compose the user input process. So the first step would be now to register our functions that we want as callbacks for these events within GLFW. I'm going to copy this arrow here and I'm copying it again. And then we are just going to say that we are registering these callbacks within GLFW. Alrighty, now I'm going to copy that step box here. And this is the first step. We have to register the GLFW callbacks. And I just realized that I made a mistake here as well. This box cannot be the main loop because the registering of this of these GLFW callbacks does not happen within the main loop. It just happens once. So I'm just going to make another box here and call that main loop. Expand that a bit. Now I'm going to also put the text at the top, and I'm just going to put poll events inside here. So we are registering these callbacks once, and within the main loop, we are constantly polling for events. So the next step within this process is that the user has to generate some events. So I'm going to look at my template again, just going to copy an arrow and then connect the keyboard to the key event, copy that arrow again and connect the mouse to the mouse event. Then we copy that step box again, paste that here. And this is the second step. The user is creating some GLFW events here and they are being put into the queue. And the third step is now that our game engine has to poll for these events inside of the loop. So we are going to copy another arrow and connect GLFW poll events with the event queue. So GLFW poll events is asking the queue, do you have any events for me? And if that is true, then the GLFW callbacks will be triggered. And we also have to copy this step box here. I'm just going to put that here. And that brings us to the last step in our diagram already, the execution of these callbacks that we registered in the first step. I'm just going to copy an arrow again from my template and connect the key to key, paste the arrow and connect mouse to mouse. And I just realized I made a mistake here. These arrows aren't in the right order. Key has to go on key and mouse has to go on mouse. So I just cut a couple of seconds from this video to make that look a bit better. We just have to copy the last step box here, and that would be the execution of these GLFW callbacks. So now that we finished the diagram, we will go over it again to do a small recap. So the first step would be to register these GLFW callbacks. We are doing this once. The second step is that the user creates some events by pressing a key on the keyboard or clicking a mouse button. These events will be stored inside of the GLFW queue. And within our main loop, we are polling for these events constantly. And as soon as we find one, they will be processed, which means that their callbacks will be called and executed. So now that we are done with the diagram, we will go over into Visual Studio and implement these callbacks. So let's go over to Visual Studio. I have the window class source file already opened, and we are going to register these callbacks within dedicated functions that GLFW provides to us. And for key callbacks, that would be GLFW set key callback. Now they have two parameters. The first one is the window where this callback is to be executed on. That would be our window. So if we would have two windows, we would have to do that twice, once for each window. And now we need a function pointer to tell GLFW where the callback is located in the memory, but we're not going to use like separated functions. We are going to use C++ lambdas here. These lambdas will capture nothing, but they take a couple of parameters, and they are like obviously different for every callback. The key callback, I actually have it open here. The key callback needs the window. So we need a GLFW window. Let's just call that window. And then we need, those are 4 integers, the key that, that was pressed. We need the action, which means like, we need the key, and then we need the action. So that means press, release, or repeat. Then we have the scan code, and then we have the modifiers. That's an integer as well. And modifiers means shift, alt, control, stuff like that. There is an arrow here. I know what the arrow is because that class, that type is written like, or spelled like this. And that's fine now. And within this callback, we will just do a print to the console and just say GLFW key callback. And a new line at the end. And now this should already compile. It did. So let's see what happens if we press a key. Put the console here too. And it's twice because we press and release, press and release, press and release. So how does this work like out of the box without doing anything else than like registering this callback? Well, we did this stuff in the last episode and it's not much. It's just GLFW poll events. That's everything. As soon as we implement this, we are able to like receive these events and then call the callbacks. So there's only one more thing I want to do in this episode, and it is also implementing a callback for a mouse button click. So that's GLFW set mouse button callback. It's the same thing. The first parameter is the window where this callback is to execute it on. And the second thing is the actual function. So we are just defining another lambda function. And this one also captures nothing, but takes the GLFW window as a parameter. Now I have to look into the manual. GLFW set mouse button callback. There we go. I'm just going to copy that here and then go back to Visual Studio and paste that here. And that works already. And let me just copy the print from over here and say mouse callback. Now let's build and run this, and we should see like a key press does 2 prints and a mouse press as well, because we have like clicked and released, clicked and released. And that's pretty much it for GLFW user input and event processing. We have seen that we only have to use GLFW poll events to poll for these events, and then we have to like register these callbacks once. And as soon as one of these events comes in for which we have registered a callback, they will be called and executed. I'm going to put myself into full camera mode again. I'm going to turn the diagram into a PDF and upload that and link that in the comment section or in the description of the video. I hope this was helpful to you guys. This was pretty much an expansion of the last episode because I didn't want to put that all in one episode. Thank you for watching. If you liked what you saw, then click the subscribe button and like the video. And if you want to join me in the engine's development, then you can contact me over the YouTube contact details or join my Discord server. And I would say see you next time. Bye bye.